Hi everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's oil painting time-lapse and studio sessions episode 22. Real quick before I begin, I just wanted to announce that I've released a new set of stickers in the spirit of Halloween, and as a special offer for you guys, I'm going to be including a free sticker with any purchase from now until October 31st at my website, happyd-artist.com. No code is necessary. Today's video is brought to you by the awesome folks at squarespace.com, which I have been using for the last 2 years to build and host my website, and I'm still completely in love with it. So whether you need a domain, website, online store, make your next move with Squarespace. Start your free trial today at squarespace.com and go to squarespace.com/happydartist to get 10% off your first purchase. Okay, time for the time lapse and discussion. We will be talking about bad artist habits. So these things I'm about to say are not meant to shame or embarrass anyone. In fact, I feel like if you're guilty of some of these habits, hopefully this video would be really helpful to you guys, because these are all habits that I have been guilty of, and I have found myself searching for answers and ways to combat them. So if you find yourself going, wow, I actually do this all the time, or dang, I really check off a lot of things on this list, do not worry, because I have been or am currently on the same boat. Just because I can point out what some of my flaws are doesn't mean that I am perfect at fixing all of them, but I feel like as long as we are self-aware and we work towards our goal each day, hopefully we will get better and better. So let me begin with my list. The number one bad artist habit, and I was guilty of this kind of earlier on in my career, and that was not producing enough work. Like, I always thought that I'd rather not make any paintings at all than make a painting when I don't feel inspired, or if I'm not feeling confident about my work. I always thought, well, better to just make a few really good pieces than to make several bad pieces. And I actually over time realized that that was the wrong mindset. And the reason it is completely opposite of what you should be thinking and doing is because the only way to get better at something is to practice. Practice until you get better. And if you sit there in fear of not being able to produce something that you're proud of and never practice, and letting that fear prevent you from actually growing and learning from your mistakes, you will never ever get better. You will just fall victim to that fear forever. So my first giant bad artist habit that I had early on in my career was I was not producing enough work, and the less work I produced, which meaning the less practice I actually did, the slower I was improving, or the more frustrated I became that I wasn't improving, and then it was just a vicious cycle. So even if you hate your work, or you think it's bad, or you're ashamed of it, continue to practice. You don't have to show everyone everything you do. You can even practice privately, but always, always produce new work, and always, always be producing lots of quantity of work. And don't be afraid of letting yourself down, because that's the only way to get better, is to keep practicing and producing work. The second bad artist habit, and again, I myself was guilty of this, so I know how detrimental it can be to an artist's growth, is copying too much from one person or one source. So while I believe that learning from someone who is like a teacher figure, or someone who can actually teach you something to help yourself improve, while I think that learning from them is definitely beneficial, and I feel like no student can get better without relying on the guidance, or at least the inspiration from external sources, I feel like when I used to get all of my lessons or all of my inspiration from only one source, it really stunted my growth. I realized later on that there's more than one right way to do things, and there are more than one type of art that can inspire you, or one artist who can inspire you. In fact, the second that I opened my eyes up and decided to not only research more artists but learn from them, I realized that I strengthened my own skills so much more than if I had pigeonholed myself into only drawing lessons and inspiration from one source. A great example of this is when I was super into Sailor Moon and manga, and in middle school, all I did was copy various Sailor Moon manga art, and I simply was unable to find my own voice or my own style or even get the technical breadth that I needed to really improve. And the second that I opened myself up to reading more art books, learning from different masters, I would watch Bob Ross, and then I would read books about maybe Da Vinci and JMW Turner, and while still, being in love with Disney cartoons. And when I was able to blend a lot of my different interests and pick and choose elements from each one of my inspirations that I loved, I was able to combine them into one kind of unique package that I could call my own. So when you copy or learn from just one person, it looks very obvious. Even probably you can tell that your style is looking way too similar to someone else's, or your technique is mimicking someone else's too much. But when you go out and do the research and find many, many artists who inspire you, who can teach you things, you'll be able to combine the best of them into something that is uniquely yours. So I really recommend not copying too much or not relying too much on only one person for inspiration or for art education. And another bad artist habit is using social media or some sort of external validation to gauge the worthiness or the value of your art. Especially if you're on social media, it's really easy to only favor the artworks that get the most likes from the general public and feel like the most popular artworks that you posted are somehow better or somehow a better indicator of your artistic growth or your creative vision. I would really suggest to not let that be a factor, because social media is so unpredictable. Your best piece of work and the painting you spent the most time on, the painting that really pushed yourself and challenged you to grow, might not be the painting that gets the most popular reception from the audience. So I really recommend you to compartmentalize your activity on social media with your genuine kind of gut intuition on which pieces you find the most significant or the most compelling. And don't let some sort of external factor that you can't control dictate what your interests are and where your artistic growth should be. Next up is not practicing the fundamentals. And I know I've said this many, many times, but I cannot stress just how important it is to simply practice the basics of drawing and painting, whether it be composition, anatomy, shading techniques, values, just the kind of boring stuff that we might see as just drills and exercises. Those are equally, if not more important than developing a personal creative style. Especially in the beginning, if you're a new artist and you haven't really sharpened your fundamental skills yet, it's so important to be able to practice those, because fundamentals are the tools which allow you later on the freedom to experiment and express your personal style. And lastly, the worst artist habit of all is being way too competitive. Whether it's with yourself or with other people, having a competitive mindset be the kind of priority when you approach art can really ruin the fun of it. And whether it's you saying, oh my gosh, I just made a really good painting and I don't know if I can ever beat that, or oh, my last post got this many likes and this new post got less, that's all going to detract from overall how much you enjoy the painting and drawing experience. I think while it's good to have a healthy dose of motivation and encouragement and a sense of wanting to constantly improve and constantly be a better artist and grow, it's really unhealthy to let that kind of, oh, I must beat past me, or I must beat so-and-so, letting that mindset pollute your general experience with creating art. It really takes away from the joy of creating art and turns it into this competition. And like all competitions, sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, and dealing with that feeling of failure or losing is just not healthy. So I try to think of art as a more organic process now where I know there's going to be ups and downs, but I'm not going to measure it by a win or a lose. Instead, I just kind of accept all of the ebbs and flows, ups and downs as just part of the natural course of art. And I try to see the small bits of enjoyment and unpredictability. And as soon as you stop competing with yourself and stop competing with others, you'll find that you actually accept your own art and accept your own mistakes a lot more. You're less hard on yourself. And like I said, you just have a way more enjoyable experience creating art. And the clearer your mindset, the more you enjoy it, the better your art will look on its own in a natural way. So yeah, these are pretty much all of my tips for some of my own bad artist habits, and hopefully some useful advice on how to combat those habits and turn your art career and art growth into something positive and beneficial. So if you guys have any tips to share of your own or bad art habits that you commonly see in yourself, and tips on how to improve them, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. And real quick, before I finish this video, I wanted to let you guys know that I'll be having a 1-hour live stream in my studio where I'll be talking to you guys, answering your questions, and working on a painting in real time for you while explaining my techniques and all that fun stuff. It's going to be October 25th at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for my $5 and above patrons at patreon.com/happydartist. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye!